Rick Upchurch. For 30 years, that name stood alone, spoken with a kind of reverence reserved for the rarest of athletes. But the story of how he became Rick Upchurch, that part isn't told nearly enough. And it begins with a moment that caught everyone off guard, including him. His story begins as a Golden Gopher, where he left defenders scattered behind him, setting school records and earning all Big Ten honors twice. Production like that doesn't whisper to NFL teams, it shouts. But when the Denver Broncos called his name in the fourth round, he was more surprised than anyone. And the reason? Well, that's going to be surprising too. Now, you've seen his name on the Broncos Ring of Fame. But do you know the story behind it? He created the records that rewrote what a return man could be. A return specialist with speed to burn, elusiveness that made tacklers grasp at ghosts, vision sharp enough to carve through coverage like a hot knife through soft butter. The moment he arrived in Denver, he didn't just make an impression, he detonated. Week 1, 1975. Haven Moses goes down early, a rookie is thrown into the fire. Upchurch didn't blink. He took over. 153 receiving yards, 13 rushing, 118 in returns, 284 all-purpose yards. A franchise record, shattered in his very first game. A preview of what was coming. 8 punt return touchdowns, an NFL record that stood long after he walked away. More punt return yards than any man in league history at the time he retired. 5 all-pro selections, 2 all-decade teams, a career that didn't just sparkle, it roared. And on the biggest stage of all, Super Bowl 12, he was a one-man spark. 116 return yards, a 67-yard burst that set up Denver's only touchdown. A mission carried out with fire, even if the 8 offensive turnovers buried the dream. His teammates called him up. Fitting, because every time he touched the ball, the Broncos rose with him. If you picked up any reputable publication in the 80s and 90s with a list of the greatest returners of all times, you would find Upchurch ranked above everyone. But to understand how a career worthy of Canton began with a moment of pure disbelief, you have to go back to 1975. Back to a Denver franchise still shaking off its AFL past, barely clinging to relevance, only recently discovering what a winning season felt like. A team so far from the national spotlight that many Americans couldn't find it on a map. And remember, this wasn't the modern draft. No combine, no pro days, no endless interviews or televised specials. Information traveled slowly. Just newspapers, rumors, and whatever information you could scrape together. Even the sports section in the newsprint wasn't widespread nationally until 1990. And the Broncos, well, they were a rumor in a distant cow town. So when Rick Upchurch got the call, when he'd learned he'd been drafted by Denver, he didn't know they even had a football team. That was the surprise. Not the pick, the existence of the franchise. Tony Dungy, that Tony Dungy, was his quarterback at Minnesota. When he heard the news, he rushed over with a map pointing to a dot in the Rockies, trying to show his teammates where his NFL journey would begin. From a team he didn't know existed to a career that will one day be immortalized in bronze. Rick Upchurch's journey wasn't just remarkable, it was improbable, unbelievable.